The UK is seeking to unravel a more than 40-year-old partnership with the EU in as little as 2 years. It's a colossal feat that has its skeptics, despite the plan outlined earlier this week when Prime Minister Theresa May triggered Article 50 for Brexit. Now, the BVI has been watching and listening keenly to the developments and has responded. Now, Kathy, a lot to talk about in terms of what transpired in the UK this week regarding the Article 50 letter that Prime Minister Theresa May sent to the European Union, which outlined essentially what the UK, or officially what the UK wants to happen from here as it seeks to depart the EU by March of 2019. Whether or not this will happen by then or there will have to be an extension, we don't know. But what we can say in the interim is that the tone of Prime Minister Theresa May this time around, as opposed to her aggressive tone as many as described it back in January, was totally different. It was more conciliatory, more of one of cooperation. And the Premier here in the BVI, who has been keeping a close eye on the Brexit negotiations, has announced that there is a Brexit task force that the BVI has established with some 11 members to be led by his Permanent Secretary, Broderick Penn.
Yes, certainly. But here in the British Virgin Islands, we have our own concerns, and we have a Premier who has been very, very keen on paying particular interest in as to where the BVI stands and what needs to be done in terms of keeping the economy stable or even rising above where it's at right now, and hence the formation of that task force.
Let's talk about what this task force seeks to do. According to the Premier, this task force is expected to provide him with a white paper at the end of their deliberations for him to take to his next UK Overseas Territory meeting in June. Now, why is this significant? Because there, the Premier will advocate on behalf of overseas territories such as the BVI. What exactly do they want from this Brexit negotiation, and why? So that at the end of the day, however it is that this turns out, they stand to benefit and create new opportunities. So this task force is supposed to look at, Kathy?
When the Premier made that decision to compose a task force to look at this entire situation, his main objective is for them to look at what are the effects that are going to come out of this old separation of Britain from the European Union, as well as to look at opportunities that can be created as a result of.
And these opportunities, he says, are not just for the territory's premier sector, which is the financial services, but also as it pertains to travel, new business opportunities, the tourism industry, the enhancement of a fishing sector here in the BVI. And the Premier, in forward thinking and with a view to diversifying the BVI economy as he continues to look at the complexities of how this new world is shaping up with the advent of Brexit and Donald Trump being in the White House and this new world order as it pertains to global trade. He says that what he's also seeking to do, while he seeks to not only know more about what happens as the UK negotiates with the EU, but to prepare himself for any eventualities by formulating new partnerships. And those new partnerships would include entering into the CARIFORUM group, yes, so that the BVI can partake in the trade deals that are agreed with the EU by the African Pacific group of countries. And to remind our viewers what CARIFORUM is, essentially CARIFORUM consists of the 15 CARICOM countries as well as Cuba and the Dominican Republic.
And in that very instance of looking to CARIFORUM is another area we can safely say that Premier has been very proactive, that because even before the task force was appointed or set up, he had Mr. Benito Whitley, who had an audience already with with
The head of the
ACP.
ACP.
Yes, His Excellency Dr. Patrick Ignatius Gomes. And so they are moving ahead while you are still composing your group, strategizing how are you going to go forward with it. Yes, those proactive moves are being made.
And one of the proposals that the BVI's premier is putting forward to the UK and how territories such as the BVI can help to advance this global Britain that Prime Minister Theresa May continues to speak about is helping the UK to reach out to new markets, which the British Prime Minister says that this is going to be a premier focus going forward in terms of new trade deals. And the Premier says these new markets that the BVI can assist them in getting a foothold in are China, India, and even the Commonwealth. Some may say, well, doesn't the UK already have relations with, you know, countries such as these, and wouldn't the UK be in a position already to do as they wish? Why would the UK need the BVI? But then I suspect the Premier is speaking from a financial services standpoint.
Very, because he recognizes the importance of the economic standing of the BVI with the financial services. Yes, we are in the different markets, but there is some ties that were there because of us being under Britain, and Britain at that time being a part of the EU. Now with a separation, it's a totally different ball game. So he has to pay keen attention to that.
No, Kathy, the negotiations for Brexit, while it is that both sides may try to put forward, you know, conciliatory tones in terms of diplomatic speak, at the end of the day, no one should try to fool themselves about what they're trying to achieve here. This is something that has not been seen before. The UK is critical to the 27-member EU bloc, and so this divorce is there's a high possibility that it will get nasty.
Yes.
And the president of the European Council, Donald Tusk, has himself admitted this. He says that it will be complex, difficult, and sometimes even confrontational. So what that tells you, you know, is that at the end of the day, while each side will be seeking a unified agreement in the various areas of this deal, they are not fooling themselves, because each side is going for what's best for them. And this is something that the Premier has taken note of. He says the BVI isn't naive in terms of what to expect from the Brexit negotiation. It knows that at the end of the day, whatever is negotiated may very well affect the relations of UK overseas territories such as the BVI with the EU.
Yeah, and then he's been seeing into this, and this is why I think that the Premier has been pushing so hard for things like the expansion of the airport runway for financial sector. He's been trying so hard to get more monies in the consolidated
broadening of existing industries such as tourism, yachting, fishing.
Yeah, he sees the importance of this, and that's why he was fighting. But then there is the other side of things where a person said, as a member of CARIFORUM or being associated with CARIFORUM is an area that maybe Premier did not look into much earlier and seeing the benefits.
Not just the Premier, but previous BVI administrations.
Exactly, because this is not just a today something. They're thinking that, you know, that CARIFORUM would have been a unique opportunity had you gone forward with that much earlier, where you could have been able to say, are you jump around? We did good. Yeah, but it is good still that he is recognized there is a plan B if things does not work out in the favor as you're looking forward for it to with Britain. There is another arm that we can turn to, and we hope that, you know, CARIFORUM welcomes the BVI in the way that they want to get in there.
And even in terms of external trade partnerships within, let's start with within the region, the BVI has associate partnerships with the OECS, as well as it's an associate member of CARICOM. But there's always more work to be done, especially in light of the trying global times, the new era that's about to be broken in light of Brexit and President Trump, Kathy. And so at the end of the day, the reality is that Prime Minister Theresa May will not have an easy task even though she's spoken hard and the UK is trying to get what it wants and nothing else. But at the end of the day, even though she says that no deal is better than a bad deal, we suspect that she's possibly reconsidering having uttered those words, because the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, has actually said that a bad deal is better than no deal. And then we have Scotland, which is trying to seek a second referendum in order to get independence from Britain so that it can remain in the EU. So there are multiple pawns at play in this scenario, and the BVI and other overseas territories and countries in the Caribbean will have to take note and be proactive as it unfolds.
Yes, because in some sectors people are seeing this as a World War III in the fact that it may not be a war of guns and bombs, but it's fighting against your economy. When there are the meetings, go out, because at these types of meetings, when you go, you barely see a few people there. Go out, hear, learn, make contributions.
And so, Kathy, in a new era of geopolitics and the retraction of free trade as we know it, we wait to see how it all shapes up in light of Brexit and President Trump and his new world order. And so we have to leave it right there on the big story. But do check us out next week right here on JTV channel 55, as well as on our YouTube channel, Facebook page, and website jtvlive.net. On behalf of Kathy Richards, I'm Peter Gay Coombs.